This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you so much, Parker, and welcome to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and today's guest is part of an incredibly cool organization whose mission is dedicated to safeguarding the rich history of the blues music, honoring its original creators, and celebrating the innovative spirits who push its boundaries. Their mission statement continues, "We strive to educate and inspire while preserving the unique sound and style that defines this iconic genre." This organization not only celebrates Black History Month each February, they celebrate it each and every single day. And here to talk about the Just Blues Music Foundation is founder and CEO Charles Mitchell. Charles, it's a pleasure to have you, sir. Welcome to Time Signatures.
Jim, thanks for inviting me here to visit with you, man. It's an honor. Anytime we can get the word out about what we do, we're happy to do that. And as you said, you know, we're here to do our part as far as archiving and preserving and recognizing artists who don't always get the opportunity to be recognized in some of the more popular blues awards or media publicity.
Sure.
They kind of like well-kept secrets. But we do our part to go out, find these artists. It's like treasures laying around on the ground. There's so many artists out here who have been in their little hole-in-the-wall nightclub for 50 years.
Yeah.
But they play the blues. And that's all they know is the blues. And these are the artists that we really go after and look for and try to, you know, share their story with the rest of the world.
Yes, sir. Well, Charles, there's so much to unpack in this episode because Just Blues is so much more than just a name. It has a ton to offer, but I need to start with you first. We need to learn a little bit more about you. What are your earliest memories of music as you were coming up?
Well, I'm a product of the 60s in high school. And during that time, all the radio stations were AM.
Mm-hmm.
And we had our station in my hometown, and every morning while we were getting ready for school, parents were doing the breakfast thing, getting ready to kick us out the house for the day. They were playing the radio station because that's how that was the community. It was really community service back then.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's how they found out about what was going on in our community, what was happening next, what artist was coming to the club Friday and Saturday, what church was having the big event on Sunday at 3:00, what gospel group was coming. So yeah, I'm from that era, and I'm happy to be from there because I had the opportunity to see some of the originators of this music. Well, when I say see some of the originators, I was able to see some of the artists who had followed the path of the originators.
Yes, sir.
You know.
Yes, sir.
And meet a lot of great artists over the years. So yeah,
yes,
that's mostly my story. I'm a probably like yourself. I'm a fan of the music. I love the music and some of the artists that I listened to early, as I was saying, on those AM stations, but like Lil Milton, Albert Kane, Bobby Bland,
Mm-hmm.
you know, artists like that.
Stuff I listen to now, wishing I could have seen them when they were doing their thing.
Man. Man. And I was and back then in my neighborhood, there was a guy who was a promoter, and I'm happy to be able now to talk a little bit about him, because to preserve him a little bit, because he'll never be talked about again. This guy's name was Albert Wright.
Okay.
Albert Wright wasn't a musician at all. He was a promoter type guy who had a bus, a 12, 15-piece band, a lady who weighed 400 pounds and did the Aretha Franklin type style.
Oh, wow.
He had a show that went cross country. In fact, a guy who I went to school with, he was one of the guys that performed in there in his bands. He had a little person who was imitated James Brown. It was almost like a circus type deal.
Mm-hmm.
But as I got older, I found out that these guys, they were doing like the vaudeville type thing. They had shows. The shows had dancing, comedians, everybody dressed to the fullest. And the dressing was like loud and noisy and colorful. And so like I said, that guy lived in my neighborhood. And they would rehearse in a house not far from me. And me and my buddies, we would go and we would get buckets because back then, a lot of the shotgun houses were sitting on what you call cement blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And they were up in the air. And to see into the window, we had to get something like what they call now the 5-gallon paint buckets and turn them upside down and stand up on them and peek through the windows to see them rehearse. Man, that was a fabulous time. And so yeah, that was some of my inspiration. And I wanted to mention that guy because he was a guy that he was a guy who always talked to all the kids in the neighborhood. Sure. You know, he would like, here's a dime, you know what I'm saying? He was that guy. And but like that's all he was known for. He did shows. He actually bought the circus to town and stuff like that.
Wow.
So, but all this was in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so at night, another story at night about the music, we would listen to Randy, JR. And he would come on and but the only way we could hear him, he was coming out of Nashville. The only way we could hear him was we had to listen in the car. So we had a special battery for that. We have a battery that we put in at night. And we sit in the car because JR, we couldn't pick him up until about 9 o'clock at night, coming out of Nashville. And they sold records. I'm pretty sure you heard of that guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, you know, yeah, that's where I'm from.
Very cool. Now, I have to ask you the obvious question. What caused you to begin work on bringing Just Blues Music, the Just Blues Music Foundation to fruition? And when did that process begin for you?
Okay. I'm going to tell you a story about Just Blues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the originator of Just Blues.
Yes, sir.
But Just Blues started as a management company. In that management company, I met a guy by the name of Lucky Peterson.
Oh, man.
I met him through another guy by the name of Bob Greenlee. Bob Greenlee was King Snake Records. Bob Greenlee was the guy who was a big fan of the music too.
Mm-hmm.
He was a bass player. He had a studio down in a town called Sanford, Florida. King Snake Records had a lot of people, Noble Thin Man Watts, Kenny Neal, Rafa Neal, just so many guys I can't really, think about them now, but they were. So I met Bob through a friend of mine, because I used to have a different band. It was an R&B band.
Okay.
He played the clubs and stuff in Florida, the Holiday Inn circuit. And this guy said, man, he knew I did a lot of recording stuff, and he was a bass player. He said, man, I got this guy. It's a friend of mine. He want to meet you. So I said, okay. So I went out there to the studio and met Bob. Bob said, hey, man, he said, I dig your bag, because I had a little label with my group that was called Chaz. He said, man, I dig your bag. I like your music and stuff, but you need to grab an oar and jump in the boat, because the blues is going to be the next big thing. Now, this was like about 84.
Okay.
I said, oh, yeah. So I said, man, I said, yeah, the blues. And in fact, I was doing other shows like in clubs and things like that, producing shows at nightclubs like Tyrone Davis and Lil Milton and people like that, Millie Jackson. So I said, yeah. I said, well, I know all about the blues, but that was the blues that I was raised on.
Mm-hmm.
And the other blues, I didn't really dig it. Like the Muddy Waters, not that I didn't dig it, but I didn't, to me, it sounded all the same. But meeting this guy, Bob Greenlee, and now because this is what I'm talking about, I'm dating myself, going back to the 60s.
Yes,
I
sir.
didn't dig it. I dug Albert King, and Albert King was changing. He was the part of that change from that old traditional style blues to R&B blues. Him and Albert King was a big part of that. Lil Milton, Tyrone Davis, Johnny Taylor, those artists. But what Bob was telling me, he said, well, man, he says, I want you to check out these guys. I said, man, I'm not really into that. So, but now I started meeting these guys, and I started working with Bob at the studio. So he knew that I was interested in studio stuff and was recording. So he made a deal with me that I couldn't refuse. He said, what I want you to do for me, he said, I want you to help me out with this blues and help create a radio list to do radio marketing. And at that time, the only radio for the blues was college radio.
Wow.
And he had, like I say, he had Kenny and those guys, Norbert Thin Man Watts, a few other people. So I said, okay. So we started developing that and making a list, and the college radio was getting strong because they had DJs that just played, they had blues shows. So, and the more I started listening to these artists, I had developed a appreciation for the blues. What I found out was, yeah, it all did sound the same, but the artist is what made the difference. Every artist had their own style. They brought themselves to the game.
Yes,
they put
sir.
themselves on the platform of having their own style. I mean, like, and that's what gave me another appreciation for it. So as I started working with Bob, and he had, like I said, Kenny he was upcoming. He was one of the rising stars in the blues at that time. Lucky was more of a studio musician. And at this time, Lucky didn't really play guitar.
Wow.
He was just an organ player for Bobby Bland. And I got a funny story, man, about how I met Lucky. So one day we're at the studio. Do we need to stop and take a break?
No. You keep on going, man. You're doing good.
Yeah, man. So one day I'm at the studio, and Bob come to me. He said, hey, Charles. I said, yeah. He said, man, you mind picking Lucky Peterson up from the bus station? I said, no, that's cool. I had heard a lot about Lucky. And, so like, I go to the bus station. in this little town, like I said, Sanford, and they had a little place that was size of just a little bedroom, like for the station, where you just go in and buy your ticket and you sit outside on the bench. So I get there, I'm sitting on the bench as the bus come and leave, and I sit there for about 20 minutes. And I did see this guy that was going back and forth to the telephone. And he had an overcoat on, and like we in Florida, and it's 90 degrees.
Oh.
But he was coming out of Memphis or somewhere where it was cold.
Okay.
So after a while, he come to me. He said, "Hey, man, who you waiting on?" I said, "I'm working on this guy named Lucky Peterson." He said, "That's me. Let's go." Lucky was like 19 years old. I'm looking for a guy that's 60 years old.
Oh, wow.
I heard too much stuff about him. This can't be him. So, that's how I met Lucky Peterson.
Wow.
But Lucky Peterson, the reason why I'm talking about him, and you asked me about a little bit about why and how Just Blues, Lucky Peterson is the one that was there and who helped me to start the Just Blues Music Management Company.
Okay.
That's where it all came from back in '88. And because Kenny was already on Alligator, Kenny Neal, Lucky was going to Alligator with Lucky Scrack or one of those albums like that. And everybody thought that, like, Kenny, which Kenny is a great artist, they thought they were okay. Bob said, "Well, man, Lucky need help. Would you help him?" I say, I don't mind. Lucky don't bother me at all. So I started with Lucky, and all he did, man, was he just sit there with his guitar and just keep playing with it over and over again, trying to learn how to play. And then he started getting some gigs, and people were actually hiring him for his organ playing. But he get at the gig and wanted to play guitar. And man, Lucky would play guitar and do the mashed potatoes like James Brown.
Wow.
And he played all kind of blues, and he break a string and on the guitar and change the string right there while he's singing and playing. And while he's playing with a broke string, he takes the guitar to another level. I said, "Man, who is this guy?" So, yeah, and so like I said, and so I really got into Lucky and wanted to, and I talked to him and we wanted to try to develop him, and that's how Just Blues started.
Wow.
We went from Alligator. We did 2 records with Alligator. Left Alligator in '91, and well, not left them, but the last record, he did 2 records for them. And a guy came from a label over in Europe, in France, called Jeton, which was starting to sign a lot of those guys like that. They got people like Junior Wells. Man, it's just so many. Joe Louis Walker.
Okay.
And they might even had Lonnie Brooks. I'm not sure about that one. But they had everybody who at that time, during the late 80s, they started getting those artists because they noticed that the artists weren't being marketed in a way, in that way. So this guy came and he wanted to sign Lucky. Lucky did the first record with them, Beyond Cool, and went to Europe. And when James Brown got out of jail, Lucky opened up like 10 shows for James Brown.
No kidding.
And the promoter who was promoting James Brown became to be a big fan of Lucky's. And man, Lucky just blew up in Europe.
Wow.
Lucky was selling like 80,000 units in blues. He went from Jaton to what Polygram was the label. And then eventually it became Universal.
Okay.
So we did probably about 8 to 10 records on that label. And Lucky was big. He was playing for the big audiences, and he was becoming to blow up and be big. And we couldn't get gigs in the States. We couldn't get festivals. Still wanting to play them little small clubs. And it was just frustrating for the artists.
Yeah.
And I saw that with a lot of artists like him. So I started to say, well, maybe I could do more for a lot of artists than I could for maybe one artist. I had Lucky. Lucky was attracting other people who thought that like I was just super agent or super manager or whatever. And I wasn't at all. I mean, I did my work. But what a lot of times that I think that artists might miss out on is like management follows the artist. If you got a great artist, people want the artist so they can come to the manager. If the artist
Sure.
and the artist and the manager are together and on the same page, the artist will step back and let the manager do his job. And then Lucky was a genius in a lot of different ways because he allowed me to do my job for a while. Until a lot of people start getting in your ear, they think that like, okay, your manager, he may be getting too much. You should be more in control. And for whatever reason happened, then I had other artists starting to come. I was managing Trudy Lynn, and she's a great artist.
Mm-hmm.
I met a lot of guys like Big Daddy Kinsey, Sun Seals, and artists like that who I thought were great artists. Luther Allison.
Wow.
We used to go to Luther Allison jam session on Sunday in Paris. Bernard, his son, is a good artist. But I knew, and even now today, people say, well, why do you have a relationship with all of these people? Because I'm not really known. And I don't have a problem with that because I don't have a problem with working behind the scenes.
Sure.
And to me, that's where management should be. It's all about the artists. And so
Charles, let me interrupt you. I want to ask you, where did the shift take in to where Just Blues became more than just a management company?
Okay, so in the mid 90s, we had a thing called Just Blues Barbecue and Blues Awards.
Okay.
It wasn't what it is now. And we did one. The first one we did it with Lowell Fulson and gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Okay.
So in 2000, we moved over to the Just Blues Music Awards, which was a lot different than back then. Just Blues Music Awards, at one time we were doing like a popularity type award that would what I call a popularity. I call it popularity because people were able to go online and vote for categories. But every time we did that, so now I'm talking about 2000 now.
Mm-hmm.
So every time we did that, some people that thought that they should win didn't win. But on a popularity contest, it's about how many people you can get to vote for you.
Right. Yep.
It's not whether or not you're the best or not. It's whoever the best in social media now, who is the best social media person that can get people to give them a vote. So we got away from that because it was causing too much problems, and went to the honoree. That's when we started. We were honoring artists all the time.
Sure.
One night was the popularity contest, and one night was honoring the legends. And we've always had 4 nights of events. The reception. Thursday night was always the award show night. Friday night was a party. Saturday night was a party. And we always had a conference involved in that, where we did like a workshop conference, which we talk about history of the music, the originators, and that program turned into what we call now Blues Got a Soul, which is our educational program component. And that's for the youth as well as adults. So we really got serious with the Just Blues Music Awards around 2000.
Okay.
Since then, we've done 25. This will be our 25th award show.
Wow. Now, according to your website, you've created cultural heritage special events and historical education programming for our youth. Talk about those programs just a little bit.
I will. Okay, so yeah, we've done a lot with artists like Bobby Rush, even Millie Jackson has come in and taught. We had William Bell. And what they do is they come and talk about their experiences in this music.
Sure.
Their experiences as an artist. And that's so. And then on the youth part, we do what we call youth camps. In the youth camp, we invite students, or either we go to most of the time we deal with charter schools because it's so much red tape in public schools. The charter schools are more open for us to come there and present this program.
Yes, sir.
And we present the program. We take artists there to mentor the students there who are interested in music. We did one time with the Blues Heaven Foundation in Chicago, and they partnered with us on one that I really, and this one was in the late 90s, but as we were starting to develop this program. And Shirley Dixon, who was Willie Dixon's daughter, she was a part of that. And she helped us to get like 2,000 harmonicas from Horner Harmonica.
Wow.
And we gave them to 2nd and 3rd grade kids because she felt like that was the instrument that they could get a sound out of. Now their parents.
How cool is that?
With us.
Yeah.
Their parents probably weren't that happy with us, but but again, that's been over 25 years. That's been almost 30 years ago. So now, those kids are grown.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I got to ask you, have you seen some of those kids come back?
I have not. Okay. I have not. In fact, in the school where did the program, it was at Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary, near where the Martin Luther King Center is now.
Okay.
And the people and the artists that we had there was Chick Willis, Theodis Ely, Chicago Bob Nelson, Lucky Peterson.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's how we started with the youth program. And over the years, artists like Theodis Ely and they have continued to support that. We've done camps during our conference where we brought kids in and had Bobby Rush would talk to them, sit there and play guitar and tell them stories, that kind of a thing. We done one big one here right before the pandemic that I thought was a great one that had Bobby Rush, Theodis Ealey, a young guy out of Memphis named Yellow P, play harmonica.
Okay.
Uh, and they did one for Memphis, for Shelby County Schools in Memphis. And before the pandemic, we did a lot of stuff with them, and we had about 170 students. And at the end of that program, after they all do their presentations and then they perform together, and you got all these, and these were like from 8th grade to 12th grade. And as Bobby Rush and Yellow P and Theodis was jamming together at the end of it, they were up dancing to the blues.
Man. And can you imagine being in the house with one of them kids coming home? I got to meet Bobby Rush today, and they're going, "What? Wait a minute."
They were
talk about
awesome.
nurturing the soul of the blues, man.
Yeah. So and again, like I said, it's so much to do and so many things to do, and one of the challenges for us has been the fundraising to be able to do it. And but we still continue to do it, and we just had a great fundraiser here recently for Blues Got a Soul. There's a young lady out of Arkansas down in Pine Bluff. She just had she does a birthday party every year.
Okay.
But she loved the kids. Her name is Tafara Waller. Her family, the Wallers, are big in music. But when she do her birthday, she always do a fundraiser for the kids. So she
Nice.
just did one. She just had a birthday last week, and they still raising money, and it's been a great fundraiser. So we'll go down to Pine Bluff at some point and do a kids youth camp there.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's where we are with that.
Now, how about Just Blues Radio? Now, this is an app, and I found it last evening while I was preparing for this interview. But I'd love to hear more about this, Charles. Where did the concept start, and who maintains it for you?
Okay, Just Blues Radio. We've actually been doing this since 2005.
Wow.
And the internet was a little different back then.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a guy who and we got a magazine that we do like this right here. I don't know if you ever seen it anywhere.
I have not.
I'm gonna send you some.
Okay.
So this guy, he actually was trying to put together a magazine called The Chitlin Circuit.
Oh, wow.
And he wrote about all the stuff that was going on at that time, or what was left of the Chitlin Circuit, and the new music that was coming that was called Southern Soul.
Okay.
And his name was Harold Conover. He approached me and said, "Man, I love what you're doing." He lived out in Arizona, Phoenix. "I love what you're doing. I would just love to help any kind of way I can." I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Yeah." So we used to do a black and white magazine. He came along and took the magazine to make it look like it really a magazine should be looking.
Okay.
In 2005. So he also he worked for the state of Mississippi, some in his technical position, like in internet or whatever. So he's the one that brought the idea to me about, man, we could do a radio station. I said, okay. And then he was on our board for a while. I said, okay, let's look at that. So he actually did the station from his house. That was back during the time anybody who had a station, you had to have your own server.
Yes. Yes.
So he would have the server. He was programming everything.
Wow.
And if the station went down while he at work, he'd have to go home and put the circle back up. But that's how dedicated he was.
Man.
He passed away, I think, in 2012 or something. Like
Okay.
that, 11, 10 or somewhere in there. And by that time, now you got other programs coming along that you could actually have a station. So then another friend of mine, Robert Green, he started to help me out, and we found some of these platforms that would do it. But now, to get back to your first question, I'm the ones that's programming the station because the software is much better for us.
Yeah,
And
man.
I program it, and what has happened? People like yourself to go by there and listen to it. We got on TuneIn, we got over 60,000 followers.
Wow.
And there's another one
That's
called,
pretty impressive, man.
yeah, and we don't promote it. It's people
I
find
love
it
it.
somewhere.
I love it.
They find it. They listen to it. I had a guy from Casablanca send me a nice email. A guy from New Zealand. I used to have a thing where you could call and leave a message. And
Sure.
the guy from New Zealand say, I'm down in New Zealand. I listen to Just Blues Radio. I love it. I listen all day long. It's so refreshing. But you're probably going to hear music on our station that a lot of people don't have that music. A lot of people don't know that music.
Yeah.
So it's an acquired taste and place to be.
And you would you say this is a more of a blues soul type of a station?
Absolutely.
Yeah, or soul blues, I guess.
Soul blues and soul is what we like to call it.
Well, and I kind of got that from listening to it last night. Really enjoyed it. I'm going to make this part of my listening regimen. We have a Blues Society radio network up here in Michigan that's just getting started. But I really, really enjoyed listening to it last night for the first time.
Yeah.
So, Charles, you're about to celebrate your 25th anniversary with the Just Blues Music Awards and conference on July 31st at the IP Casino Resort Spa in Biloxi.
Yes.
How did these music awards come to be? I mean, you like you said, they started like in 05 or 2000.
Well,
it grew
started
up.
in 2000, but in 05, we did it in Atlanta up until then.
Okay.
2006, we came to Memphis.
Okay.
There was a friend guy of mine who was a DJ at WDIA, a famous radio station in Memphis. And from Rufus Thomas and B.B. King and all of them were there.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, man, because we weren't really, getting the attention of anybody. Atlanta, you would think Atlanta was a blues town. But it's a blues a little bit. I put it like that. He said, You should come to Memphis. He said, the artists are close. People still coming out to the clubs. They listening to the music. WDIA is playing the music. So I came to Memphis and checked it out. Came to Beale Street and met this guy who operated the Historical Daisy Theater on Beale Street by the name of Randall Catrum. And me and him, we sit down and talk for 15 minutes with the guy from the radio station. And Randall told me, he said, well, man, it was funny with him because he said, well, he told me about how much the plays cost a night. I said, but I'm doing 3 nights, I said, that's too much for me. I can't pay that much. He said, well, he said, you know what? I like you. You tell me how much you want to pay. That's how I came to Memphis.
Wow.
I walked in the Daisy Theater. I knew that was where I wanted to be. The theater take you back in time. The white cloth tables, the tables, they go. I mean, it's just so wow. He kept this place, and he didn't allow just anybody to have an event there. He was the curator of the place, and he was very particular about what happened there. But anyway, we went there, and we started having artists like Bobby Rush, Bobby Bland, Lattimore, Denise LaSalle, Carla Thomas, starting to visit our event.
Nice.
And they were coming back. So so about 2008, I'm saying, maybe we should, we got all these people here. I started asking the artists, I said, maybe we should, to preserve your legacy, we could have put an award in your name. And that's how it happened. I talked to Bobby Bland, and he was cool with it. Denise was cool. She liked it. She liked the idea. Denise was one of our biggest encouragers that I can remember from back in the day. Because she tried to do an award show once, and she knew how much work it was. And she said, I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of work. She said, but I like what you're doing. And I'm going to support it any kind of way I can because it need to happen. Our artists don't get the recognition that they deserve. And we're being just forgotten about. Well, you think about it. Right now, today, and you can talk about the blues just about all day long.
Sure.
And very seldom does Bobby Bland name come up, even Albert King, Denise, any of those people, Lil Milton. It's hard to hear their music played somewhere.
Yeah.
But we do that at Just Blues Radio.
Yes, you do.
We give them a place to be heard. And that's why Just Blues Radio was developed. But so as we went along, we started getting awards and everybody's name. And I didn't want to just say that it was an award in somebody's name. I went to the families, the ones that I could get in touch with, are the artists, and asked them, like the Albert King estate. I got in touch with them. In fact, Deanie Parker from Stax Museum, she put me in touch with the lady who was in charge of the estate to get that to happen. I wanted Willie Mitchell because I just knew so much about his music. I didn't know him. And I wanted to meet him. So one day I went over to Royal Studios on my own. I wanted to meet Willie Mitchell because I wanted him to come to Just Blues. Willie Mitchell was, he was sitting right at the front door of the desk when you open up the door and walk in.
Mm-hmm.
I knew who he was when I saw him, but I didn't think I was going to be able to meet him that easy. I said, Mr. Mitchell, I wanted to honor you at the Just Blues Awards and put an award in your name. He just sat there with a smile on his face. I told him all about our mission and what we wanted to do, how we wanted to preserve the artists. So he told, okay, get with my grandson, Boo, and whatever you need me to do, I'll do it.
How cool.
So these artists, there's so many other stories that can be told about them. Artists like Will Mitchell, who was right there in the studio sitting at the front desk because he talked to people in the neighborhood, keeping their lights on and different stuff that people don't know about. So our artists, so that's how we came up with the idea of putting awards in artists' names. And sometimes we bring some artists back. We got a little Milton's Award that we bring back sometime. We've had the Willie Dixon. But the ones we really stay with is Bobby Rush, Denise LaSalle, Willie Mitchell, Albert King. We keep Millie Jackson alive because she's done something incredible in R&B and blues. So yes, I hope I answered the question because
oh yeah,
I got so many If I get on the artist, I might get carried away.
Well, I'll tell you, this organization has so much to offer. I want to talk a little bit about what's coming up here in August or in July, in August.
Mhm.
July 30th, you got the president's VIP honoree reception,
Right.
followed by the music awards on the 31st.
Yes.
And on the 1st and 2nd, you're going to hold your Blues Got a Soul Technology Conference.
Yes.
You're going to be celebrating the late B.B. King's centennial birthday, plus a fish fry and a wrap-up party. This is going to be some kind of shindig.
Yes, sir.
And
Well,
and the cost is $400, okay?
for everything.
Man, look at all the benefits. Now,
Yes, sir.
Charles, I just talked about the lineup, but what about the swag? What about the goodies? What about all the extra stuff that you guys are putting in with this package?
Yes. And like in the VIP big package,
Yeah.
you get in a T-shirt, the official T-shirt, the magazine, the official poster that you
Mhm.
can get signed by the artist that's on the poster. You can get, and all the artists who are there. You
Man.
get in the VIP laminate badge that only the big package folks get. You're attending all the events. You're attending the private party that I might have somewhere that nobody else knows about up in the suite. And we getting together and networking and talking about, what we can do as a industry. It's all about, and trying to get the artists to collaborate and be together. And we have promoters there. We have club owners, artists, fans. And that's one time that I heard Lattimore say one time that, like, he never get a chance to just be with the fans. This is the time that you can walk up to any of the artists there, get pictures with them, talk to them, get autographs, and they're happy to do it because
Sure.
it's turned into something like a family reunion.
Sure.
And like you said, the Thursday night, which is the award show, where the reception is a nice get together for the honorees. And we all get together there in the lounge, and everybody is just meeting and greeting and mangling. Thursday evening, we have a red carpet, former honoree sit-down dinner, and the award show with about 8 to 10 performances, all with band. There's no imitation stuff going on. Friday afternoon, we have the technology conference workshop that we call it. This year, we're going to have a guy by the name of Jack Dapper, who's going to do some historical stuff, and he's going to talk about B.B. King and his legacy. And we're doing a tribute to all. That's the big thing this year is B.B. King centennial. And
Yeah.
Friday night, and a lot of stuff is still unfolding, so people should look out and listen out to who's going to be performing. Because I just found out myself yesterday that the performer for the B.B. King Centennial Awards, and that's going to be awesome. We
All
haven't
right.
announced it yet, but it's coming in the first week of April.
Wow.
So, and Saturday night is going to be the rap party, which is always fun. But you never know who's going to perform there. But we have over 20 live performances during a 4-day period.
Wow.
And it's nothing but fun. And it's down in beautiful Biloxi, Mississippi at the IP Casino. We'll be on the beach, walking in the sand.
Man.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. So, and it'll be some other, like I said, there'll be some other parties. We talking with the Ground Zero down in Biloxi about some after party on Saturday night after the rap party.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like, stay tuned. And you can find it all at jusblues.org.
There you go.
Justblues.org. Everything
There you
is
go.
there.
Now, Charles, let's get down to it here because I'm sure that we got some folks who want to sign up and become members of the Just Blues Music Foundation.
Yes, sir.
I'm honored to tell you that I signed up last night.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Where can people go to do that? And maybe they want to make a general donation because Just Blues is a 501c3.
Absolutely.
Maybe buy some merchandise.
Yes.
And most importantly, to learn more about Just Blues. Where can they go for all that?
They can go to the same website I just said, www.justblues.org, jusblues.org. No T in just.
That's right. It's JUS.
Just.
Well, Charles Mitchell, it has been a great pleasure, sir. I want to thank you so much for taking time to join me today on Time Signatures.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
Appreciate you being here. Now,
Thank you.
before we wrap up, I want to remind you that it takes an estimated 5,000 music streams to raise the equivalent of a $20 CD. I couldn't believe it myself, but it's true. And so I've made it my policy to buy music from the artist first, and then and only then will I stream from the various platforms. I mean, if we want live music out there, we owe it to them to spend some of our hard-earned cash on supporting their music and merchandise. Trust me, they will thank you every single time. And thank you so much for your consideration.
One more quick thing, Jim, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. And speaking of that, because a lot of artists out there have joined us, our membership as a partnership. On the partnership, we get their banner, put it on our partners page, and you can click on their banner, and it'll take you to their page to buy their whatever they're selling, music, merchandise,
Beautiful.
or whatever.
Beautiful.
And I want to push that more because you made a good point then about being able to help the artists.
Yes, sir.
And that's our way of doing it, and we love doing that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, Charles. And that wraps up this edition of Time Signatures. Once again, my thanks to our guest, Charles Mitchell, but also to you, for without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time, is my mission. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.